The reason why I was saying that I might lose it is because, both my parents, I lost my dad about almost 2 years ago, and then my mom about 5 years ago. And they were split up at one point. And my mom was living in Lompoc with us with the three boys, and my dad was living down here in San Diego. And my mom saved enough money to be able to rent a car. And we drove down, and she had a tape of I Had the Time of My Life. And we listened to it on the way there.
Great.
My parents came together. I'm getting goosebumps while I say it.
Goosebumps too. That's great.
But that song almost didn't happen.
Yeah. So when it's a good thing about what you have to do, because once you create your idea, and you know the essence of it, and you understand the audience you're making it for, you have to hold on with a zeal that in itself is almost madness. And so when we started Dirty Dancing, it was not a big deal movie. Another studio had already passed on it, and it wasn't going great. And the people who ran the company, my first company, managed to lure a music legend named Jimmy Einer, who was also a producing legend, to come oversee Dirty Dancing. And he in turn brought in another musical legend named Michael Lloyd. So now Jimmy and Michael are in charge of Dirty Dancing. As a studio head, you're like, oh, someone who's great. And so they're the geniuses behind the movie. Not me, it's them. And the song Time of My Life was originally done a little before them as a high falsetto disco song, sort of. And they didn't like that. They wanted to change it. So they made all these changes. They got Bill Medley from the Righteous Brothers as a favor, I think, to record a slower, lower, more ballad type song. And they then sent it to everybody, the managers, the record company, the director of the movie. Everyone hated it, thought it was terrible. Wrote them notes saying, look, you got to change this, you got to change that, we don't like this. And Jimmy and Michael were so accommodating, and they said, sure, no problem, we'll do it, we want everyone to be happy. 3 weeks later, they sent out version 2, and with a note saying, now we sent this to some radio stations, and they seemed to like it. In those days, radio stations really helped you promote albums. And they got notes back from everybody saying, oh, thank goodness, and this is great, thank you for making the changes, you were so accommodating, we really appreciate it, you've done what we wanted, thanks so much. So the question is, what did they do between version 1 and version 2 musically that made everyone so happy? And the answer is, what they did was nothing. They didn't change a thing. They just changed the label, version 2. And in fact, they doubled down. They sent it to radio stations. So if the radio stations had hated it, they would have said something about it publicly and screwed up. So when everyone told Jimmy and Michael, this song sucks, change it, they didn't listen to anybody, but they told them they would, because they just gambled that no one would know, especially since the radio stations like it. They doubled down, and that's the song you hear, which that year won Grammy for Best Song and the Academy Award for Best Song, because they knew what they had and they didn't change it. And that's what you got to do if you want to swim away from that current that will pull you to the middle. And you want to make something great. You've got to hang on with a zeal that is fantastic and almost crazy. I get told all the time, still, that my ideas are crazy. It always happens.